The May 27th Landings Association Board meeting to order. I would note the presence of all board members with the exception of Jason, who may be coming in shortly. If he does not come in, may I have a motion to excuse his absence?
So moved. Second.
Brian also, so.
Oh, Brian Duffy, am I
Sorry.
right? Brian is traveling in with a medical issue, so I'm sorry, the sign wasn't there on this.
And Rosemary, or Patty, I'm actually here, I'm listening in my phone, I may to drop in and out, but I'm here for a bit.
So it's
Oh,
Brian.
very good, Brian, thank you, good luck to you.
So that's not Kevin.
So the only one that,
Kevin,
it's
Jason.
Kevin and Jason, sorry about that, we thought that was Kevin that was on remotely. So Kevin and Jason, may I have a motion to excuse the two of them?
Brian Dunphy.
Is now exiting.
Let him come and go as he goes.
Yeah. So moved.
You have a, yes,
Second,
second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Any objection? Thank you. I would also note that there are no residents who have signed in to speak today. I would ask for approval of the consent agenda, next item on the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any objections? Mr. Filippo, would you like to present the report from the club?
I would be. And thank you for the opportunity to speak on Mark's behalf. So, financials year to date, we're in a very good place. We're off on our budget a little bit, but our operating profit is up, mostly because we're not spending as much on our proposed work. The way the calendar is working, it's just getting pushed off. But our transfer to capital, which everybody knows is our net profit, we were budgeted at 3.4 million this year, but we've upped that to 3.7. Our membership is pretty steady. We budgeted to be down this year, but actually we're 28 members ahead of budget, and we're 14 members ahead of budget on golf members. So it's been flat. We're probably down 9 golf and 14 over the year, but again, that was predicted. We also know that we drove a lot of people joining at the end of December due to some of the marketing programs that we had. So all in all, we feel like we're in the green at this point. Our Oak Ridge project is on budget, and it's a little bit ahead of schedule. Even these 2 rainstorms that we had did not deter us from moving forward. Everybody was astonished to see them working yesterday, and I'm not sure that they were allowed to work on Memorial Day, but they want to go home. So, but everything is, it's been a fantastic project from the club standpoint up to this point. We're starting to grass greens in a week. So that is the final phase on the first 6 holes, is greens, fairways, tees. We'll do 6 holes at a time. Our Franklin Creek project is moving along slowly as we continue to wait for
Brian Dunphy.
Is now joining.
permit updates from the county. We are in the phase now where the contractor we selected, the member representatives, and the team that's working on this project is Value Engineering. The architects always design for design, not for construction and price. And we're finding there are areas of significant savings and still offer a premium product to our members. But there's a long way to go. So we don't know where we're gonna have a shovel in the ground yet, but I'm fairly confident that had we given the opportunity, the board would vote to approve any parking work to be done, the pickleball court construction, and then it's the pavilion is the last component of this, and it's taking the longest time. Our capital project, Our Club, Our Future, we're still preparing information. We're collecting data to determine what projects, so we hope to have an initial project list by the end of the year. But we're still a couple of years away on that. And other than that, we're good. Any questions?
Anyone have any questions for Dean?
Oak Ridge project, when do you start sodding the fairways?
So, 6 greens will be on June 2nd. I think that'll take about 3 days. And then they'll go back and do the tees and the fairways of the first 6 holes. It's a water issue as well. We can't do 9 or it takes a lot of water. If you have been going on tours, call club tee times, schedule a tour for yourselves. You want to see what's going on. But as we're now putting grass around the tees on the perimeters, and the only thing left then will be the actual flat tee itself. We're expected about 6 weeks of sprigging, and sometime around July 10th or so, we should be in a cleanup phase, and it's just gonna grow in from there. So we don't like those real heavy rainstorms, but I will say that since all the greens were completed with their construction in the sand, we had no run out on anything. That water hits that sand, goes right through into the drains and out where it goes, where it's supposed to go. The fairway drainage that's been done has been extensive as well. And even the bunkers that have been completed with sand in them did not get washed out in that storm that we had. The drains in the bottom of the bunkers, the concrete, the sand, everything so far is working as hoped for. So we're good. Go on a tour.
Does anybody have any other questions, comments?
One
Bill?
rumor I've heard is that Timber Lane Road
Yes, Timberlake.
is going to be changed a little bit. Maybe that's a golf group rumor.
It's more than a rumor. So we have to apply to the county and other organizations because it is listed as a road that we're going to make changes. So it's either tear it up and repave it, but we also know that this is a road that a lot of people walk their pets on, and there's a lot of curves. The option, ideal option, would be to leave it with all the potholes because that slows cars coming through. But then paving it and putting bumps in the road, speed bumps, was another option. But what we think we would like to do is turn it more into a walking path and natural area and close it off to car traffic. Carts probably, walking, but no cars. That's the direction we're looking at. Good one.
Anybody else? Dean, thank you very much.
Thank you.
New business.
New business, all right, I don't have anything to report, general manager reports unless there's any questions for me. No, we will turn it over to Jessica for the monthly financial reports.
Does Mark usually stay? Does Mark usually stay?
He's welcome to, if you have something else.
No, I'm fine.
Till it gets cold.
You might want to go sit over there so you can see. So I don't look at your head in the light.
The financial information in your packet is as of the end of April of 2025. At the end of April, total cash equaled $8.2 million. Total investments equaled $10.4 million. Interest earned in the month of April was $53,930. And from January through April 30th, $231,000 year to date. Total operating revenue equaled $4.2 million. That's $182,000 better than our budget. $621,000 more than April of 2024. Total operating expenses before depreciation equaled $4.1 million. $162,000 better than our budget. $303,000 more than April of 2024. We ended April with a 118,000 net revenue over expense, which is 309,000 better than our budget projected. On the revenue side, our annual vehicle registration performing better than budget. Our rental income, which is from the lease revenue we get from Crown Castle, our cell tower lease performing slightly less than our budget. One carrier dropped off of a tower earlier this year. On the other column, our violations and Comcast revenue share is performing more than budget, however less than where we were in 2024. On our expense side, two of these, the IT support and dredging, are timing, performing better than budget. IT support mainly due to the transition of our database work, and the dredging work continuing through May of this year. Other is our bad debt expense performed better than budget. That reflects our past due balances for both assessment and non-assessment accounts. So that's a positive sign to see that performing better. The capital expenditures at the end of April, we had spent 1.8 million of the 5.825 budget. 68% of that on roads, 21% on bridges, structures, and equipment, 7% on storm drains, 2% on community paths, and 1% each on lagoons and marina expenses. We have completed projects that carried forward from 2024 and a few of those that were planned in 2025. Of those that have been completed at the end of April, we are now at $12,000 more than what our budget for those three that have been finished. Members' equity at the end of April equaled 14 million. That is an increase of 1.2 million since January 1st at the beginning of this year. As of today, we have 24 non-assessment accounts with a past due balance of 60 days or greater, and we are at 25 assessment accounts that still have a balance. We're at 99% collected, and of those 25 remaining accounts, we have 10 of those that are either in probate, a closing status, or we're working with those owners individually.
So those are the highlighted ones.
Correct. Yes. Any questions on the financial data?
Yes, on some of those, I noticed we had $18 balances.
Yes. Some people so the bank reads it by the handwritten instead of they put 2005-18 in the dollar column and then they wrote 2,500. They could have purposely, Debbie's working with those to collect the remaining amount.
All right, Jessica, we have for action line of credit renewal. Would you like to briefly speak to that?
So we have a $5 million secure line of credit with Ameris Bank. This is renewing on May 31st of 2025. We last renewed this in May of 2023. The terms will remain the same as it was before, a 2-year term, no prepayment penalty. The rate structure will be SOFR, which as of today is 4.26% plus 250 basis points with a floor of 5.95%. When we renewed this 2 years ago, the terms were the same except for the floor was a minimum of 7%. So we have seen better rate on the floor side. Everything else remains the same that we currently see. We have never tapped this line of credit. It's typically used for emergencies, if we had hurricane-related damage or other items that would require us to liquidate all of our cash or need this $5 million line of credit.
So we're looking for a motion to approve this new 2-year line of credit.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, any questions for Jessica on the line of credit renewal?
Jessica, just to clarify, I know we talked about this in Finance Committee, but there are no fees associated with this in any way.
No fees associated with until we actually tap the line of credit. We've never paid for a fee to get this renewed, no security fees to even carry this line of credit.
Thank you.
All in favor of a motion to approve the line of credit? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Jessica.
All right, Aaron, community development.
Thank you. All right. I'm glad to be here today to present to you the community development activity for the month of April. To start off with,
Just go.
There we go. Our permits issued per month are up just a little bit from this time last year. We are at 126 over 118. This is the closest our numbers have been all year because we've been running much higher than normal. When we look at our architectural review committee activity, it's again very close this month. We have 31 applications versus 28 the same time last year. So I don't know that yet that we're seeing like a decline in activity. I think it's just a slight lull. In terms of construction activity, we did not have any new homes completed. However, we have had 3 completed year to date. We have 2 new home construction sites break ground. So we have a total of 19 active construction sites currently, 9 major improvements, 77 minor improvements, 27 dumpster spot on Porta Johns, and 10 permit extension requests were issued last month. In terms of our trends observed, we just wanted to take a look at that overall permitting activity and look at it again in a cross-section against since we started looking at it in 2004. And as you can see, so far in the first 4 months of this year, we've done 562 permits, which is greater than the annual number of permits from 2017 behind. So if it was projected forward at the same rate that we're at now, we would end up somewhere around 1,600 permits this year, which is greater than we've ever done before. So while we keep thinking that, okay, we've reached the peak of this and numbers are starting to decline, we have been wrong.
And we talk about that every budget season as we're trying to figure out the architectural fees and all.
Every time I'm encouraging my staff, don't worry, it's gonna slow down.
But actually, that's good news for our community, that people can.
It is.
That is exactly what I was gonna turn to the flip side and say, what this equates to is massive investment in the homes, which is resulting in higher property values, because those properties are being, even if it's just general maintenance, new roofs, new exterior painting projects, all those things are resulting in homes that are better kept and higher property values. All good things. When we look at our private property maintenance violations, we had 12 issued last month versus 10 the previous year. So again, close on those numbers. We have started doing golf course inspections as well, so we're gonna see how that shakes out next month. We oftentimes find that the golf course fees result in more courtesy notices and more violations. However, since we've been doing them more regularly, those properties have actually improved drastically from what I'm hearing from my inspection staff. In terms of, courtesy notices, we had 26 versus 10. A lot of those had to do with landscaping. We're just at that point in the season where landscaping issues are becoming more prevalent. In terms of the total summary of inspection activities, we had 299 site visits related to ARC inspections. We had 817 proactive private property maintenance inspections and 43 follow-ups on active cases. We had 9 properties in violation resolved. 100% of those were without formal notice. So it was all through courtesy notices and contact from our staff. In terms of the types of violations that we saw, we did not have any dead, disease, or hazardous trees. We did have driveways were at 30%. The breakdown for home maintenance was 15%. Landscaping was 50%. As I mentioned, it's just that time of year. And then 5% were related to ARC violations. Any questions?
I think you'll find some trees if you do your golf course.
So some of the trees may actually be on golf course property.
No, well, there's some private property, but they show up from the golf course and don't show up from the road.
So we may indeed find some of that.
Rosemary?
So, one suggestion I have, if maybe you could get together with Public Works, when there is road work going to be done and the pickup for garden refuse can't happen because the roads are not, so we just did the piece on Lanningsway South, and all of the roads between between Yamgandi and I guess Westcroft didn't have their refuse put out for garden refuse. So they put it out and it wasn't picked up. So it was out for a week and a half almost.
Okay.
And I think if you could let them know ahead of time, don't put it out.
Well, typically, if the road is closed and we don't allow the county truck on it, then we'll pick it up, Public Works staff will, and we'll communicate that directly to the homeowners. However, if the county chooses not to go down it because they have an excuse not to, we can't control that, and it's such a large area.
Yeah.
The county had access in. They just had to follow the detour like every other truck.
Yeah.
They
But we
just
should somehow
selected
tell the
not to.
community that, because people began to call me saying, am I going to get fined? Because my stuff hasn't, no. And then the other thing is, the house on Landings Way South, that's actually on the cul-de-sac off Black Hawk, you did all of the drainage work?
Yes.
I'm sort of curious about the people next door who have suddenly lost all their privacy. It's suddenly incredibly open, and I wondered if there have been any issues with that.
Not currently. So with every new construction project that comes through, there's also a landscape plan, and the landscape plan does take into consideration buffering to neighboring properties. When we get closer to that project, getting to the point of landscaping, we can reach out to them and have them make modifications if we see that there's going to be a severe deficiency in a certain area.
And we met, both Bill and I met with both homeowners prior to the work being completed. And they were so ecstatic about getting the drainage issues resolved that I don't think landscaping came to the top of the list.
Yeah.
But there is, I know, talking with the builder too, they have a pretty extensive landscape plan, and whatever additional we need to plant on the common property side, we will just screen.
Okay. Well, I know everybody was thrilled that you managed to save these areas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We damaged a little more cart path, but we did save the azaleas.
Yeah, there you go, that's right. All right,
Anything else? Thank you.
Tim, with the monthly security report.
Overview of April on some of the year-to-date statistics.
It's like Big Brother is watching you.
All right, so as you can see, the April crime stats pretty flat across everything. We did have one burglary, and it was believed to be a vendor was in the home at the time of the burglary, and it was a pretty major one, about $20,000 stolen in jewelry. So, April Guardian Pro stats, as you can see, in the bucket of 41 to 46 miles an hour, we had 92 violations, and 47 to 51, we had 12. Next month, I think we're coming close on the year, so we'll be able to have some comparisons. We're trying to put the radar placard directly in the location it was a year ago, so hopefully we'll see that. Unfortunately, you will see in May, someone did take the opportunity to damage our Guardian Pro unit. The case has been turned over to Chatham County Police Department for criminal prosecution if they catch who did it. And then just over this weekend, our other radar placard had the wires were cut. So we're in the process of getting both of those fixed.
And in the process of pursuing criminal prosecution.
Absolutely.
For anybody who did it.
Yes.
So what's the plan for establishing some sort of surveillance of those things?
I have a
Video
quote
surveillance.
forthcoming.
Good.
So you guys aren't gonna like the price, but
We don't like getting good things.
yeah, I mean, it's a $20,000 unit, so if we gotta spend $13,000 to protect a $20,000 unit, might be a good investment, so.
If we ever catch the guy, we can fine
Oh, yeah.
$13,000.
We'll get our money back, yeah. So, again, Chatham County's finest is on that. April golf carts, again, pretty much level across the board, and the one unregistered and unlicensed was actually the same person, so he got 2 citations for that. Citations overview, again, up from 16 to 27, and the fines accordingly up from 1345 to 1600. This is an overview of the citations, really nothing different here, from boats and trailers and driveways, dry trash being placed out, parking on the street overnight, things like that. The May appeals, they heard 5 cases in May, 1 case PPMS violation, 2 for speeding, 1 for parking violation, and 1 for a covered vehicle. And to follow up on April appeals, there were 4 speeding cases heard, and all 4 were denied. Interestingly enough, I'm part of the Gated Community Security Managers Association throughout the country, and one of its members wrote in today, said we're seeing a lot of safety concerns with kids riding electric stand-up scooters on our narrow streets. Is anyone else having this problem? So we're not in a bubble, everybody has the same problems. And just to reiterate, our rule is that motorized vehicles other than golf carts, including electric scooters, are prohibited on our community paths. So as we get into summer, please remember that. And right now we're still in the educational phase of things, but I would imagine as the summer progresses, we'll transition into the enforcement phase.
So have we
We
got
may
some
want
communication
to-
going out on that?
I'm sorry, gone.
Sorry, excuse me. We got some communication going out to
That's
remind people of that?
That's
We'll
where
put
it's
it out
just
there.
going.
Yep, we'll put it up there.
I think a good summer is coming, kids are gonna be out of school, here are rules and the reasons why. We don't have rules just to have rules, we have rules to make it safe for everybody.
Tim, what does enforcement look like for the kids and scooters?
It's a moving violation, $100.
Wow. So are you actually standing on the cart path waiting for them to come around the corner?
We did that recently. We did that recently just for a stop sign issue. We had a complaint that a lot of people were running a stop sign on the cart path, and that's exactly what we did.
Wow. Okay.
So Dean, I believe the club has run some articles,
They have.
and that's appreciated.
Yes.
And we're doing some joint communications on a lot of rules and regs, things that impact both of us. And hopefully the community will understand that we're not only serious about it, but we're serious about it because we care about our members or our residents. There's a reason for all of
The
this.
safety.
We have one board member who reported literally being run off one of the passed by a kid on a dirt bike, a serious motorcycle kind of dirt bike. So I don't even know how you find where that's registered or not registered. I would think we need license plates, but.
Not for a dirt bike, but we know of one person who we actually issued that particular person a fine. I don't know if it was the same one or not, so, but yeah. Call us, we'll respond.
All right, thanks, Tim. Sean, storm drain project.
All right, everyone can turn to page 31 in their packets. You'll see a staff report and capital. The one thing I did want to pass around, it's always kind of interesting, is the CI, the cure in place lining process we use. This is the before they soak it in the resin. It comes in a refrigerated truck, and this is after it's cured, just to give you an idea of the product that we'll be using in this and continue to be using in this process. But
This is the SIP lining that you.
yes, it's
Not zip.
SIP, thank you.
and a really cool technology that's really, I think, gonna drastically improve our refrigerant system.
So what's the guaranteed life?
30 years is what they say. I think it's just because the technology's only been around for about 30 years, but I could see this lasting much longer because a lot of the challenges that occur with separation are because of joints. Most of the fight failures end up in joints, and this is a solid run from box to box, so you eliminate all the joints within. And it actually has a structural component associated with it too, so even in the areas where the pipes fully disintegrate around, you still have that in place, and it has a structural component if anything drives over the top.
Now that, so may I clarify, is that guaranteed?
They,
For 30 years?
Yeah, they warranty for 30 years.
Okay.
Yep, it's a great product. And again, the newer technology, we really jumped on this early in the process. So it's gaining traction. A lot of companies are even using it. It's taken a foot in the water and sewer industry for smaller pipes. We have some companies that are specializing in that. Stormwater, there's not nearly as many companies doing the stormwaters as that are doing kind of the smaller stuff, just because the equipment needed for the stormwater is so much larger. But there is companies that are starting to try to get involved in this process, which should help us get some more competitive bidding in this too. So you'll see on page 31 a recommendation for a contract with Southeast Pipe Survey in the amount of $742,328 with a 5% contingency of $37,000 for a total project cost of $779,328. We're doing a continuation of the work similar to what we did in Marshwood. We're now moving into the Palmetto phase of the community, phase 2. Like we found in Marshwood, we're finding a lot of corrugated metal pipe was used, which is pretty surprising because a lot of it is along the marsh edge and in charged pipes, which means salt water is sitting in metal pipes throughout the area. A lot of this is going out between houses and around other infrastructures. And a lot of the surveys we've done have shown that a lot of this piping is in very poor condition. We've showed some pictures of Public Works and Finance. One of the pipes we actually had to remove because it was in a degree of deterioration where the lining wasn't going to be successful or warranted. So we had to go through and do a conventional replacement. So we're trying to work very quickly, really starting the marsh edge in the Yam-Gandy phase. Yam-Gandy, Coventry Close, Middle Marsh area, working back from the marsh back up to the upland where we have less saltwater intrusion working through those pipes where they're actually charged is our priority, hence why we're kind of working this way. We did go out to bid to 2 different companies, Southeast Pipe Survey and Ace Development. Ace would be a third, or would have to sub this work out. They don't have the availability this year to do the work. They're doing a lot of work up in Sun City, Hilton Head, Beaufort, and actually on the Jasper County side with the Del Webb communities. So they didn't submit a successful bid. If they were to send out a third party, it would have been exponentially more expensive, so they didn't feel that going through that exercise was appropriate. Southeast has held their pricing to what we've done in the past years, so it's all based off of the lengths in lineal foot and then also the size of the pipe. So it's really exponentially more expensive the bigger the pipe. Most of our discharge that we're talking about on the Eastern Marsh are going to be your larger pipes because everything is filtering from the center of the island working its way to the outside. So as you add additional drainage, you actually add size of the pipe. So we'll be working through those. Not all of them are that large of size. Some of them are just feeding smaller streets. So it could be a 18 or 24 inch pipe versus 42 to 60 in some cases. So we're working through those on a case by case basis. As I said, the corrugated metal pipe has been a real problem. We were hoping we'd run, we saw a lot of that kind of disappear as we got into Palmetto phase, but what we're seeing is anywhere under roadways, they use concrete pipe, I'm sure for the structural stability of what's on the roadway, and then as soon as they hit the box on the edge of the roadway, it goes to corrugated metal from there on out. We haven't ran into any of the creative pipe solutions where they go from concrete to plastic to corrugated, or kind of whatever they had in the yard kind of mixtures. So it is a little bit more uniform that we're seeing in those areas through the surveys. This was reviewed and approved or recommended for approval to the board by both the Public Works Committee and the Finance Committee. We're shooting to have about a mid-June start date. We had, like I said, one pipe that failed, so we went ahead and had that conventionally replaced, which was off of the top of Delagal. And this process is estimated to be completed in September. Some of these pipe sizes are custom orders, so once we get the contract in place, we'll start to make the orders and start to schedule some of the work to occur. We are going to be talking to a few homeowners in the area where the drainage easements go between the 2 properties. Most of those are vegetated jungles for privacy. And for us to be able to get the trucks and the equipment in, we're going to have to clear a lot of that vegetation out to gain access. So we'll be working through that. And I would say this is phase 1. You see that as phase 1. We have $1 million budget total, and phase 1 came in about 3/4 of that budget. And we will have some additional work as we continue to survey, where we're going to have to address some immediate concerns like we're finding here. So there will be a second time that you'll see myself or Bill coming up and asking for a continuation of this project into phase 2. But we wanted to get started and make sure we're on the calendar and working with Southeast through that process. So what I'm looking for today is approval of a contract with Southeast Pipe Survey for a total project amount of $779,328 for phase 1.
Second.
Second?
Question.
Second.
You got a second?
All right. Questions?
So, phase 2 would be unexpected growth over phase 1?
So we're still surveying with further down the chain along the Eastern Marsh. And so it'll just be a continuation on unless we do have a significant failure
So
there.
how many, this is Palmetto, so how many phases are there in Palmetto?
So total will be, Marshwood was 5 years. So it'd be close to about that same amount for about 5 years of time.
So you're expecting about $1 million a year for 5 years?
Well, the camera will
Plus
tell.
inflation?
The camera will tell. Some of this We're also finding there's some very unique, so during the development from what was Georgia Plantation, whatever the previous developer was, and Hussey Gideon Bell was the engineer on that project. When it was purchased out from by Brander out of bankruptcy, Thomas and Hutton took over the engineering. So we're also trying to clarify some of our drawings because there's a lot of things that were changed ideologically, and what's on maps aren't as-built. And so we're working through, there's a lot of unknowns we're finding in this area, especially with the difference in diameter pipe sizes, difference in drainage patterns, and some of those other.
So granted that it's a great unknown, notionally speaking, phase one is 20% of the total project, do you think?
Yes.
And so we're spending 3/4 of the money on phase one in the first half of the year, so we can expect a cost overrun on this by the end of the year?
I would assume a cost overrun before the end of the year.
And also, will the pipe company keep us at that price? Probably not going forward though.
We're gonna definitely try.
As I said, you buy a car with, next time I need a car, I think you're good at it.
We're gonna definitely lock them in, and this helps, I think, kind of get them locked in, gets us on the calendar. One of the biggest challenges is the demand. The good thing is we've had a decent relationship with the company and been able to work hand in hand with them, which is, I mean, understand they're getting called from Fort Stewart, Hunter, City of Savannah, and the hardest thing is getting on the calendar and making sure that we stay kind of priority.
So did you think about doing a contract with a base year and 4 option years? So that they could bid on it for those 4 option years and know that we're serious and? Did you do that, or is this just a 1-year contract?
Yeah, we've been doing a 1-year contracts with them.
Is there a reason we don't look at a multi-year?
We can look at it, similar to what we've done with the roads. Yeah, I can look and see how that's structured. The challenge is, with the roads, we tie it to an index, which makes it a little bit more comfortable for the contractor. I don't know if there's an indice that we can tie this to that kind of is a balance point between the contractor and us, but we can definitely evaluate it.
Well, it doesn't have to be a firm fixed price contract. It can be a cost plus with some rational boundaries to it. But that's particularly if they're the only guys who are bidding on it now, and they're in demand, and we can expect the demand to continue to go up as Chatham County continues its.
Well, and that's what the municipalities have been going out. Like City of Savannah just did a pretty major project, about a $4 million lining project downtown, and they had to pull a company from Montana to get it done. And talking with some of their engineers, they, one, would not recommend the company, and two, were very disappointed with some of the quality.
Does the board need to do anything to, authorize pursuing a multi-year contract?
Not at all, because that's what we have with Bennett Paving.
Yeah, we can do that, and if we can get to an agreement we're comfortable with staff, then we'll bring it to the board, and you can approve up to a 3 year.
I was gonna say, what we typically do with that is we lock in the contract, we get approved with a contract, but we still come forward each year for the actual expenditure out of that contract.
So you've done it with landscaping, you've done it with roads?
Yep.
So this will be the third
And
thing.
we're working on roads right now as we're kind of wrapping up this year's project, so.
And why would you limit it to a 3-year if you think it's a 5-year project?
Well, it would
It's
be
a
up to the board.
15-year project.
Yeah, this would be an extenuation, but typically we don't exceed more than 3 years from a board approval unless the board's comfortable with that. And I would have to look into the bylaws to see what the final, but I believe it's 3 years, just so you're not securing work for future boards.
And you also indicated that perhaps more people are going down this methodology, so there may be more providers coming, which is.
Yeah, I'm hoping.
That's the thing about if it's an option year, you can, if they're not
Well, true,
competitive,
yeah.
then you just don't execute the option. But
And that's where we can start to look at some of those options too, because it is, I think it would be in the favor of Southeast, with our paving contract. It also gives the pavers some negotiation with the banks and other things just to renew equipment and some of those others, so it is beneficial to both.
Any other questions for Sean? We have a motion and a second for 779, 328 approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you. All right, we have Communications Committee appointment. that we would like to make Gary McKee. He has a design and visual communication background, which would be handy for the work we're doing with the website and the app with the communications committee. He also has background in building these personas that we talked about before that our communications committee started working on this month. So we would like to go ahead and make a mid-year appointment to the communications committee of Gary McKee.
We have a motion to appoint. Okay.
Second.
Any questions, discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yeah, we also have another one not listed on the agenda, but we talked about a little bit earlier. For the appeals committee, we're needing to replace a member. We would like to add Frank Chiavari to the appeals committee.
And we would note that he is being appointed as an alternate, and a current alternate will be moved up to an actual full-time position. So may I have a motion to appoint Frank Chiavari as an alternate to the appeals committee?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. All right, we on to board committees?
Yes.
All right. Finance committee report,
Special
nothing?
from finance, no.
Okay. Governance, Marion.
Yes, we have the Appeals Committee Charter to approve. The Appeals Committee Charter is on page 34 of your materials. This has been approved by the Appeals Committee, also by Governance, and now we're bringing it to the board for approval.
May I have a motion to approve the appeals committee charter? Bill?
So moved.
Second. Any questions for Marion on the appeals committee charter? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nominating committee.
Okay, we have a list of folks for the nominating committee, and does everyone have this?
Yeah, I think it was handed out
Okay.
earlier today.
So it says draft, but this is the draft for, but it is the final for board approval. You will note the members of the committee. I serve as chair. Patty is the other board member that is on the committee. Also, Bonnie Kelly, who is a longtime resident, has been involved significantly in the community. Reed McNamara, who was a candidate last year. Quentin Marlin, who many of you may know, he's served on the committee for at least 3 years. He's very involved in the community. Gary Bross. Now Gary was a prior TLA board member and president for 2 years. Back in, I think it was around the 2008 range. Stephen Lee is on our appeals committee and has served on the committee in the past. Mike Barber, who's also served on the committee in the past. Chris Fran, who's also served on the committee in the past. Then, please pronounce Fran's last name for me, Patty.
Cambor.
Fran Cambor. Has been a board candidate in the past. She applied to the committee by email, and also Sharon Stevenson, who applied by email. So that is our list. You will see we have more than 5 non-board members. We're required to have at least 5 by virtue of.
What does the color coding mean?
The color coding means, Bonnie means that, green means that that person was specifically recruited.
Okay.
Purple means they have purple or whatever color this appears to you. It looks more pink to me, but that's applied by email, and the blue or the turquoise is that they were members last year.
And that's on page 4 of your handout, if anybody's looking for it.
What's page 5, the 2 people there?
That's just people who were.
Brooke Powell applied, and Gary McKee applied. Gary and I met personally with all of these individuals. Gary and I talked for a while, and he said, I want to do what's best, where I'll be most helpful.
And we just named him to a
Correct.
committee.
And we just named him to
Right.
to the communications committee, given his background. Brooke Powell just today withdrew her application
So that,
due to scheduling conflicts, so.
there was one person that I questioned. Did you have
Yes.
further discussion with him?
I've had many discussions with him.
Okay, and
And
you
I
will commit
think-
to the time?
Yes, and the other thing is I think it will give us a good, it'll be a test.
Is now exiting.
I think it'll be a good test to see, this time of year is tough for, to recruit people because it's the summer. And I think it's gonna get worse as time goes on, as we're seeing people, to me it appears, it's anecdotal, but that we're seeing more and more people that have that second home that go away for the summer. So, he'll be on Zoom
Is this
most of the
Reed?
time.
Is it Reed?
Yes.
And then
All right.
he goes to Maine, so, yes.
All right, can I have a motion to approve the nominating committee slate?
So,
Second? All right, any further questions? All in favor? Aye. All right.
Well done, Marion.
Opposed? No. No opposed. Okay. Strategic water.
We want to do a bylaws.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's right, for
Okay.
nominating.
So
Sorry.
speaking of the nominating committee, we've updated the charter, so we have that accurate. We needed to make one change to the bylaws in section 3.7 in nominations. We simply want to strike the words "and the board member ex officio" because that gets into a specific versus opening it up to the board. As Marion talked about, this particular committee will have the 2 board directors as called for, but many more than the 5 that are listed in there. So the change we want is to remove the words from section 3.7 "and the board member ex officio."
So moved.
Second. Any questions? Now, this has already been done in the,
It's done in the charter.
it was done in the charter. This is just to kind of make the 2 of them
Match.
match. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Go on. Anything before we go to strategic water?
Thank you.
Okay. We had a meeting this month, because we meet every second month. The Water That Way conservation video was enthusiastically reviewed and will be aired tomorrow. So I'm happy about that. It'll also be in the Wednesday Wisdom as well. We looked at communication plans for both strategic challenges that we have in terms of potable water and a permit and sea level rise. So that the plans were reviewed, they're coming along. We did do a successful test, a second test of the Catch the King on Sunday, and we pinned holes number 8 and 9 on Terrapin, and pinning is just capturing the geocoordinate. We did the cart path along Delagoe, the Delagoe Marina, the North Marina, and from the Marshwood Tower along the cart path. We found that even with 1 bar of signal strength, we can capture geocoordinates because we're getting about 80 to 90% reception level using the app, which is great. So for us, it signals that we can do the full, community-wide Catch the King event in November, and we're moving forward with that. And then lastly, we confirmed that Professor Alexander will come to talk to the board about resiliency and coastal flooding and sea level rise in September, and he's confirmed the date. So that's good. So that's all I have to report.
Any questions for Rob about strategic water? And the data that we were presented by Utilities Inc. showed that in fact our efforts seem to be making good progress as they've gotten more people an eye on water. We've had more people reducing their usage, so it's been good.
Yeah. Water data is, total water pumped is down 2% this year, which is good. And ion water's up, we're up to 1933, about 42% of total residents.
And we were down, 4% last year?
4% the year prior. So we're growing and conserving.
But that's island-wide, not
Correct.
just the landings.
That's total island.
Yeah, so it may well be that the landings is doing an even better job, but it's because it's averaged with everybody else on the island.
Yeah,
It's
you look-
2% island-wide.
Yeah, although we are 95% of
So
that.
it's got a huge percent, yeah.
Yeah.
Utilities Inc. does not provide the water for either the state park or Modena or the Marine Science Center,
That's a case of emergency.
unless the case are.
So it's only South Harbor and Grand Harbor
And Green Island Road, essentially, yeah.
In the village.
and the village.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, they supply the village, but yeah. So, I mean, we care about that conservation as well, so.
Yeah.
Any questions for Rob? Any general director's comments or questions?
I have one question I wanted to ask Sean. The path that is being created, which is being done as a result of a recommendation from the community path, is that correct?
Yes.
Correct? How much is that costing us?
So total will be just under $25,000, and it's going to be funded operationally. So we'll have a few less panels that we can replace, but the overall safety improvements I think justifies moving forward with that. And we've talked. That is a very small portion of a lot of the recommendations from the Community Pass Task Force from an infrastructure standpoint. And what we've been trying to do is trying to match work when we have contractors and work in an area, that we can start to implement some of these things strategically versus going out for a holistic kind of approach of trying to get this. So as the work progresses, hopefully we can continue to expand some of these suggestions from the committee.
When will we see all those suggestions?
So the Community Path Task Force meets again next Monday. It's not next Monday, Monday, June 16th. And they're gonna be bringing the recommendations forward. We would have brought them forward potentially the next day to the board workshop, but as the board knows, we have marked off a day to meet with Kate for the strategic planning work and its KPIs and that kind of stuff. So I need to work with Patty to either schedule another day for board workshop or carve out a little bit of time that day. I just looked at the draft agenda today. She's still working on some of it, but we do have it between 8:30 and 3:30 breakfast and lunch. We plan on doing that in here. So we got to kind of figure out those one-offs. Do we just push that back a month, or is that going to hold up Sean and his group based on what their kind of work they want to do? So we'll have to work through that.
And given the time of the year, we may want to get it done.
Right, there may
sooner
be a
rather than
need
later.
for another meeting or a longer day longer day.
So some of the recommendations that the PATH community may have will involve removing trees.
Yes.
Where are we in finalizing our tree analysis and filing
through
with
that,
the
with the county.
The county.
Yeah.
So we have the draft document. When we looked at it two different ways, we're in the process of finalizing the exhibit to then sit down with the county arborist and do a site visit. A lot of what he's seen is kind of the two-dimensional, and I think it makes a lot of sense to bring them out and actually write a lot of these properties so we can get an understanding of how heavily treed and dense we are. But we do have, the good news is the calculations work, which essentially uses the areas that were set aside for preservation already to meet the tree quality points. Yep, that's it right there. It does not include the right-of-ways or the golf courses. So the areas where we have to tweak a little bit will not be in part of those calculations, and we still meet the county's requirements.
When we go forward with our request, are we going to include the club?
Yes.
Okay.
We're doing the landings.
Right.
So the club's partnering with us on the study. They're paying half the cost, we're paying half the cost, and their staff's working closely with us to make sure we're tight on this.
And this will actually tie a little bit into the Franklin Creek campus also.
That's why I asked.
What's the estimate? Is it a July completion, August?
So once I can't speak on the county side, we'll be ready to submit in June.
Okay.
And the good thing is we don't have to go through the full MPC approval. This is just a document that we can provide to engineering, so that as a addendum that we then refer back to. And so once we have their agreement, I would assume it'd take them about 2 weeks to get approval through their engineering department, and then it would be essentially housed in the engineering department. We're also going to create a layer for our GIS to memorialize this, so that both the club and the association have it in perpetuity.
So potentially, it may be within a couple of months.
Yeah, hopefully we're done with it in June before July.
So then, whatever recommendations we get regarding trees from the PATH community, we'd be able to pursue
Add to
those
that, right.
as we can schedule the work.
Yes.
And we should also look at costs, because
Well, I think
clearly,
Yeah,
this did not go to the finance committee and it was
Yeah.
$25,000. It
So-
had to be done.
right,
We
and,
understand
and that falls under our road and our community pass overall thing, but as part of that, with their 11 recommendations, well, there was 10 and I think there was 11 that was getting added. And I haven't seen the whole list yet, but some of them are low cost. Again, one is striping Shellwind Drive, because we have the path that nobody uses, they're in the golf carts and then they're in the middle of the road instead of off to the side, and there probably is spacing there to stripe a lot of it if nothing else. So they're trying to get some low cost, easy safety solutions that we can handle. Some are gonna have bigger costs. Trees are very expensive to remove, but Sean's looking at, can we get somebody out here for a day or two and pay the daily rate instead of just individual trees?
Once we have kind of a direction with that, I think we can do a lot better by getting guaranteeing a contractor a week's worth of work and really just pushing them when they get here.
15 or 20 flag that you wanted out, just say,
Right.
go get it.
Exactly. And that's what we've done in the past with some of this. We bulked some of the larger work and get a day rate versus actually paying tree by tree.
I just want to comment on a couple things. I got a lot of positive feedback on the path.
The new path.
The new path from West Crosstown. But I also got feedback on what residents want more of. What they want, not cart paths, what they want more of is, you guys, the board, do a good job. Really like what you're doing. But could you tell me what you plan to do, tell me when you're doing it, and tell me you've done it. And when you do those three things, we'll all know more and I'll give you even more credit. So the next time you want an assessment, we'll jump in and give you.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to do, to get ready now for a year's time. But we do know that they have only so much ability of time to read.
I know that.
So it has to be in bite-sized pieces.
That's what I got a lot of those calls too, and they said, "Well, where's the communication?" So I send them a link to the communication. So here it is, in case you missed it, and we'll make sure you got it.
And some of these are really positive.
Yeah,
Yes,
they are.
yeah. Thanks for sharing, yes.
Dare I say, for the viewing audience, this is another example of the club and the TLA working together on an important project.
All the time, yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
for sure.
Which, if anybody have anything else for Rob? Leads me into my report, which is we did have an LCLC meeting last week, and we are doing more joint projects. We are trying to work communication-wise jointly. We are both looking to make sure that rules are followed, particularly those that protect the safety of everybody on the island. And so that we are making good progress. We are trying to save each other money by swapping equipment and knowledge, etc. So we're making great progress. We are also making progress on the association strategic plan. We put in some time for some action items. We're moving ahead on all of the issues. So hopefully the residents are getting some positive feedback from that, as well as we're improving the community. The community cart path that we were just talking about is another, that task force and the efforts we're doing, including the Landings Way path on the west side of the road is one of those things that is going to be beneficial for everybody, and it's been put together fairly quickly given the drains and everything else we had to accommodate. We are continuing to work to improve safety, as we noted earlier, with electric bikes and cyclists, and it is a challenge. What we are trying to do is make it safer for everyone. We are not standalone individuals in this community. We are individuals amongst 80 800 other people, or whatever the exact number is. So, you may not like it, anybody who's listening may not like exactly what is being done, because it impedes what you would like to do, but it's not about what any one of us wants to do, but what's best for the community. I don't really have anything else, before we adjourn to executive session. Anybody have anything to raise? I need a motion. May I have a motion to adjourn to executive session? Second. Any objection? All in favor? Aye.
I